The evil Middan is threatening to destroy the world, and only one super fit, highly athletic individual can take him on. It's not me, it's the assassin. And welcome to Goldfish on Games. Assassin was developed by Psionic and published by Team 17 in 1992. And for those of you that are paying attention will have noticed that I also have the Special Edition, which was an updated budget version that was released in 1994 by the same people. But no matter which version you got, it came on 2 floppy disks, and while their physical sizes were a little different, the contents of the manuals were mostly the same. Although in the original it mentions how you should really use hi-fi speakers due to the incredible music and sounds, and also that if you have an auto-fire joystick, it's best to not have it enabled. The Special Edition in its smaller box was in keeping with the likes of the Hit Squad and other budget labels, but unlike those, there was more to this than just a cheaper game, so we will end up looking at both of them through the video. And it starts up with this voiced intro.
The evil Maiden, tyrant of the highest order, lies hidden deep.
Which is a nice touch even if it is just some scrolling text.
Demand his reign to cease.
And then we get to that hi-fi worthy sound with the title screen music. The game offers a few difficulty settings, although if you select the rookie option, then you're only going to get to play the first 2 levels. But you can select the number of lives you have, with the game giving you less bonuses if you go lower. The game starts with our hero being airdropped outside the enemy base, and it gives us this nice area to jump around and try out our weapon, which is... wait, is that a boomerang? Our top secret assassin is using a boomerang. Yes they are. And we will talk about it in more detail later, but for now, let's just work our way past some doggos, who, well, let's just say we're petting them, as well as a few soldiers. What we don't get is a lot of enemies, or at least a lot of enemy types, which is surprising considering the size of this level. As we can see from this ripped map from the Hall of Light, these are huge. And to give an idea of the scale, this is one of the larger maps from a game released in the same year, Sonic 2. And while not all the space of the level is used, they do make better use of it in the later levels. Thankfully for us, the path through this one is mostly straightforward. But you will get to use one of the game's big features, the ability to climb up walls and along other surfaces. This feels more like Strider than Strider was on the Amiga, and it's clear that Psionic looked at that port and thought, we could do better. And overall, I think they did, as this works really well. But there are a few limitations. Like if you climb up the trees, you won't easily make it from one side of it to the other. More often than not, you'll have to go all the way down to go back up again. And also don't think you can just jump down from a great height, as there is fall damage. It's a nicely animated and smoothly scrolling game that I think has quite the lovely visual style, even if the main character doesn't look like the ultimate assassin, even less so when he's throwing those boomerangs. But this level outside of the bats and the dogs is a decent first map, as it takes you from the top of the trees down into the set of caves, but eventually you will finish the level and enter the construction yard. And wait, that's not our hero. What happened to its sprite, I hear you say? Well, this is the Special Edition, and it turns out yes, they did update the game for the budget release. And that included the hero sprite and weapon. As now we have these techno arms and legs to explain why we can stick to just about any surface, and attached to that arm is a gun, which fires standard laser blasts. So God into the boomerang as are the slightly wider arcs that they would take, as well as the ability to jump over them and get them to attack things behind you, and in its place is a blast that will go across the entire screen from the start. The other big change is that the levels got cut up into smaller chunks, and then rearranged a little, as this is actually the first level that you will play in the special edition. That whole forest part, that is missing. Now this was mostly in aid of making the levels feel a little less confusing, as it was very possible to get completely lost. So overall, I actually feel that this is an easier game, as I also found many more items, which tended to be placed in those dead ends that we could see before, but now there's actually a reason to go exploring, as more often than not, in the original, there wasn't really anything there. But one thing that is the same across both versions is the soundscape, as there isn't any music in game, it's all ambient sounds. And I think fits in with the mood that they were going for, but I do think I would have preferred some actual music instead. This level is quite cool with the cranes that you have to climb up and across, and we start to see a bigger range of baddies, even if there aren't many on screen at once. This also includes the turrets that will continue to show up on the other levels. And it also shows off one of the downgrades to the weapons, as you now need to be far more precise in where you stand to be able to shoot them. Mission 3, the Missile Command, is a slightly more straightforward map after the last one, as there's really just one way to go through it. This will require jumping on and around missiles that look like they're ready to fly at any moment, and go down silos to go deeper into the base. We also have to deal with even more new baddies, some of which take a decent number of hits to take down. And to take on this increasing number of baddies, we also have a full range of weapon upgrades. These are the round items that are dropped by specific enemies when they're taken out, or you might manage to find some hidden in the level. They will have a letter on them, and that will upgrade the weapon in different ways. P will increase its power, S will increase its speed, and E will increase the number of projectiles. In the original game you also got L, which would send the boomerang further, and W that would increase the arc that it flies. The manual for the special edition mentions that you should be able to make the laser go wider, but I've never been able to pick up the W capsule in that version. And it's not like I could even miss it, as you can shoot the capsules to get them to change what letter they are. That's if you play it in manual mode anyway. If you select automatic, then it will go through the order that the designers thought would be best. Dying will also reduce the amount of pickups that you have, so if you die a bunch in a row, expect to have to build up your weapons from the very start. There are also items for you to find, like the mouth, and that will give you hints on the direction that you need to take.
Proceed down.
But it will only last for a short amount of time, and it's also only in the original. You will also find health upgrades and stars, and if you collect 100 stars then you'll get an extra life.
Extra energy.
After working our way through the missile base, where else can we end up but in a genetic asylum, which seems to be an area for making mutants. And based on the repeated messages,
Mutant alert.
those mutants have gotten loose. And after making it out the office area into what can be best described as H.R. Geiger's back garden, we get a lot of monsters and things that keep respawning. Some of this is due to the level timer, that when it reaches 0 you don't lose a life or get a game over. Instead, selected baddies will start to respawn and make your life so much harder. This is obviously made a little bit easier in the special edition as each act has its own timer, but you can find tokens that will boost the time back up again. But when you're lost in a level, it becomes seriously not fun. Now, on top of the boomerang and the laser, there are 6 special weapons in the game. These are collected from the square boxes that you'll see from time to time. These are triggered by holding down the fire button and then waiting for the one that you want to be selected. But you can only do this if you're standing on the ground. These get quite creative as well, as it might be these little robots that run along to try and find a target, or sending out a flame ball. There's even this super special one that requires you collecting 50 stars before you can activate. Now, I feel this is one of the maps that the special edition didn't really improve on, as the original had you making your way down. But where the opening was on each of those paths was different. And when coupled with the eerie soundscape, it made for a really creepy and interesting level. And in the special edition, each sector just had you going from left to right, and then from right to left. I think they simplified it just a little bit too much. But this led us onto the final real level, Middan's Labyrinth. And this is a map that lives up to its name, as there are a lot of ways to go, but only one real route that you'll need to take. And by this point in the game, it's giving you far more extra lives than weapon upgrades or health. And to be honest, I wish it was the other way around, as after a few deaths you will end up back on those starting weapons. The only saving grace of this one is that it doesn't have its own boss fight, as all the previous ones had a boss fight at the end. Now, I think it's fair to say that these weren't the most creative ones you'll ever see, as it's mostly hit them in the right area until they stop. But they do have the odd one that might fly around after a bit, or be a series of fights. For me, this is where I saved up the special weapons, as during the selection and when they're triggered, you are invincible for a short while, and it makes the boss fights so much easier. Particularly in the special edition that would just throw lots of specials at you if you went off the beaten path. And after all that, it's just Middan, who cries when you show up, and then comes back in a mech suit. I have to say, I do prefer playing the special edition when I replay this game, as I think they got the balance so much better. As there were times when I played the original that I just got completely stuck, and I just could not make any progress at all. So while it's a shame that we lost some content in special edition, the cheaper price and everything else that we got, I think just about makes up for it. It's just a shame that there wasn't more music, because after that belter of a title screen, this game was crying out for more incredible music. And with that, we're coming to the end of this video, so if you enjoyed it, then YouTube has some buttons down there for that very reason. Or if you played this game in the past, then you can let me know in the comments what you thought of them, and which version you thought was the better. And until next time, I was the Goldfish, that was the super fit, highly athletic Hitman, and this was Goldfish on Games. Thanks for watching. It makes me very happy that you made it to the end. And if you enjoyed this content, then you are in luck, as I've covered a number of Amiga games because, well, it was one of my favourite machines. So there'll be 2 videos on the screen right now that you could go check out.